This is what happens to every founder out there. At some point, the founder's abilities and capabilities and potential, if they don't start sharing the workload, they become the constraint.
The deeper they're identified with their business, the harder it's going to be to extract themselves and then also find some kind of a life afterwards.
All right, great. So Ivan and Mariana Polic, thank you both for coming on the podcast today. I am super excited for our conversation because the both of you, as former aerospace executives of a family business, have successfully navigated the journey of business succession, resulting in an 8-figure exit, which is amazing. And now I believe you both are coaching entrepreneurs through the exit planning process because you both have lived it and gone through that world. So can you just share a little bit about your roles today and what's been your focus?
Well, thank you for having us. We're very much looking forward to this conversation. This is, um, the latest thing that we're doing. We're just now launching the new brand called Jumpstart Your Exit. So it's all about preparing for the exit. It's all about getting ready. It's all about maximizing. You most business owners, when they go through their journey of business ownership, they when it comes to finally creating that exit, the statistics are kind of depressing because only about 20% of business owners manage to create an actual exit,
Yeah.
and 80% never do. And that's either they have to give it away, or they have to shut it down, or they have to just see kind of dies with them as
Yeah.
they retire. So our mission is really about helping business owners have a triumphant exit, come out victorious from their long journey of blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
through the decades. And we would love for every one of those people that has worked hard. you know these business owners really deserve a really lucrative and victorious exit, and that's what we're on the mission for.
Yeah.
And thank you
Fantastic.
for having us here. We really appreciate you and your time and your mission, also what you do to help business owners prepare and then also look forward to what's next afterwards, because that's sometimes neglected as well. So I guess we are on the same mission and the same frequency today.
And
Yes.
when we looked at your podcast, is a wealth of knowledge, so many topics covered, a tremendous amount of solid information. As we were listening and looking through your podcast, it was really great to see such grounded and solid information on this process. So thank you for all the work you do for all those people out there that need it.
Wow. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That makes me feel good about the content that I'm putting out because it's similar to both of you. It's starting with the educational process of how it works and educating on what needs to be done, sharing stories of the pitfalls, the mistakes, and why I'm really excited today is because both of you have gone through it. So you two are the first actual entrepreneurs, business owners on the podcast to share those stories and mistakes and challenges to hopefully help those business owners that are listening, take a different path or maybe a shortcut to learn from others. So super excited, really appreciate it. And excited for what you guys are doing on the outside as well with the coaching. Really needed in the space, and I don't have to tell you two that. So yeah, so let's dive in. So if you don't mind, maybe just take us back to the aerospace business you both were running, and I want to paint just a quick picture, and feel free to shed in some color um, afterwards. Um, but your father started this business, started it from scratch, just from a machine that made a specific part. I don't know the details for the aerospace industry, and grew it from nothing to over 100 employees or so. Um, so like, what was the challenges going through that from scratch? So can you share a little bit about the structure of the business, what each of your roles were, and take us back? Maybe we could start from there.
So my father started the business in one small place with one machine. He was a machining genius. He came to America on a tourist visa and decided to stay. And within a year and a half, started his own business with very limited English. He's truly. I always talk about him, and I always say that he took on the world and he won. when he was back in Serbia, we're from Serbia originally. He felt constrained, and he felt like he wanted to challenge himself and wanted to see what he's really worth. What is he really worth in the big world?
Yeah.
And so he came to America, and then he went for it. And for about a 10-year period, his life was actually lower cost, lower standard of living than what he left in Europe. So
Wow.
it was not a overnight success by any means. It took quite a long time to find his bearings, find his footing, and he did. He started growing gradually through many trials and tribulations, adding one machine, and then adding another, and slowly growing. We got involved maybe 15 years into the business already, as he was rolling. And when we came, business had quite a few challenges because it was growing beyond the capability of one brain managing it. And
Yeah.
so this is one of those key inflection points in a life cycle of a business, when a founder outgrows his ability to maintain, to control, to ensure, to all of the things that founders do.
Yeah.
And then that became a very difficult situation, because he was, the demands were really high, and it was time to change the way of doing things and how things were getting done. And that was part of the big journey. And this is what happens to every founder out there. At
Mm.
some point, the founder's abilities and capabilities and potential, if they don't start sharing the workload, they become the constraint, and
Yeah.
they become the obstacle to further growth, because there's only so much you can pass through them on a daily basis. And so that's about the time we got involved. I was a professional soccer player in my previous life. So when I joined the family business, there was a lot of large learning curve for me. So I started at the bottom, doing deliveries and taking care of some admin work. And I had an engineering degree, but electrical engineering degree I got in college. But my life and focus was soccer up to that point, and then I had a lot to learn in the business world. And so slowly I gained the trust of my dad. That's a whole nother story of how founder successor dynamics and family business, and how that combines, and how that compares to the childhood
Yeah.
childhood dynamics and family dynamics and all of that was a big thing. But yeah, eventually we acquired the business from my dad. That was maybe 6-7 years into my journey of earning trust.
Hmm.
And then from there, we thought we wanted to have this business, but we hit a big roadblock in 2008 financial collapse, and when
Yeah.
the business lost 95% of the revenue. We were losing 200
Wow.
grand a month. Just I think it was like 9 months after we took over. So
Wow. Welcome
uh
to the business.
yes, welcome to the real world. And we just moved into the large 30,000 square foot building, and we actually signed a 5-year deal, so we felt really good about what was going on. But that deal was just a piece of paper, we found out after the financial collapse
Yeah.
of the entire world. And so that's a little bit of the story. um Eventually, Mariana became a big part of the business.
Hmm.
She came in as the chief cultural officer, because we had a big culture shift to create, going from one brain to a team
Yeah.
operated managed business. And so that was the big part of our journey, and that's the big part of our focus of what we help business owners do.
Yeah.
Because without a team, you cannot really accomplish what you want to accomplish, and your exit
Yeah.
becomes a lot more probable once you have a team surrounding you that's capable.
Yeah. And anything you want to add to that, Mariana?
Well, it's in the beginning, when Ivan got engaged more in the business, I was more in the spouse role, because kids were little and I had a lot of my job and I wanted to be, with them. and I got to witness a lot of the, trials and tribulations and everything that he has gone through. And then when he said, why don't you join me in more official capacity, I was excited to do so. And I just acquired my bachelor's in business administration degree because
Mhm.
I thought that was going to help me a lot, and all that.
Yeah,
It
let
did maybe a
alone
little bit, but it was more like trial and learn and go and,
sure.
educate myself in different ways. So I was happy to join, and then it felt like a shared load, for both of us, especially for Ivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey. Like Ivan said, we're going from so it was not just going from one brain full of knowledge technically, it was also from one brain making decisions and affecting all the other people, and how they felt in the company, which was the biggest culture shift that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of great stuff in there. And the biggest one that I think sticks out, what we both mentioned, is going from everything in the founder's owner's head and getting that spread out to the team, the leadership team, and then having that go down to the employees. So there's not that dependency, the owner dependency, right? So that's probably one of the biggest challenge. We call it the owner's trap, right? They're their own constraint and they can't grow any farther past that. And I think to talk through, how do owners start working on that process? And there's so many directions we can go with this, but I want to start with this concept of family business success DNA, because I think this is the foundational principle in your book and your philosophy on how you're helping entrepreneurs today. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can you talk more about that family business success DNA, what it is, why it's so important, and what was your family business success DNA, to give our listeners some examples?
Great question. Success DNA is really a wider concept than just family business. Every business has a success DNA within it. Obviously, if it is successful, it has some success DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So a founder, if you would, puts together, sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious, a formula of success, if you would. They are able to get traction, they're able to get customers, regardless of the type of business that it is. And some people choose to go with high retention model, getting repeat customers, building from there, working on relationships. Some other businesses are more transactional and more capable of getting new customers. So they're going out and getting more
Mm.
customers. So they're more different kind of success DNA. Some people are more oriented towards certain particular values like quality, excellence, whatever it might be. And others might be more relationship, more service, more care. So all of those things are in the mix. And each business has its own formula of what those particular ingredients, capacities, capabilities, attributes, if you would, character, all of
Mm.
those things are in the actual, and obviously then the strategy, the product, the all of those things get informed from there.
Mm-hmm.
But the success DNA is really, really important. And we have a very unique process of actually uncovering what is the success DNA of a business, guiding business owners through a set of questions and through their actual journey of founding, and finding those inflection points through their journey that really inform the core values, inform the strategy, inform the direction. And many times we find that it's a very kind of, business owners are unconsciously competent in their success DNA. Okay, so
So is that because I've heard this before, where it's like they may completely overlook the secret sauce because it's like, this is just how I've always done it, and it is what it is, but they can't define it and break it down into principles because it's in their head,
yes,
right? It's in second nature. Is that kind of
yes.
accurate?
So they get reinforced and conditioned and reconditioned over and over that, oh, this works, okay, let's do this, and this works and this works. And it then becomes habitual, and it becomes unconscious, and it becomes like a formula that they follow. But if you ask them what is it, they don't necessarily know oh, it's this and this, and this is the building block, and this is the principle, and this is the value. And they don't know. They just know they have a feeling for it.
Right.
And when
Yeah.
a decision comes to be made, they're like, no, we can't do that. We have to do this. But why do we have to do it? Because that's how that works.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. And I encountered this with my dad after many conversations around many different things, because I'm a more of an idea and strategy person.
Yeah.
And the resistance was epic, let me tell you. I found myself peeing up the wind for many years with
Yeah.
ideas, and I learned a big lesson that you know, coming up with ideas with founders probably not the best way to work with them and help with them.
Yeah.
More of a gratitude and curiosity and respect direction is a much better way to work with founders,
Yeah.
and to then slowly elicit, if you would, what is the formula, what is the success DNA, how is this business, how did this business get to here,
Hmm.
and what else might be in his journey, and how do we take those operating principles, those really special formulas, and how do we take that as the legacy upon which we can innovate,
Hmm.
keep the core essence of the business, and then innovate from there. So that's a little bit about that process. And yeah, that came out organically from our journey and trying to figure out what is the special sauce
Mm.
of our family business, and how do we get that out of my father's genius brain and
Yeah.
into something that other people can actually help with.
Yeah, and Mariana, I would love your perspective on this too, because I can imagine this would relate to a lot of family businesses where the father or mother is the lead founder, and then their children are in the business, and the business want to grow and innovate, but the founders are stuck in their way because that's the way it's always worked. So treading that path to approach them with, hey, maybe we should expand this way, or try this, try. My parents hate change, so there's a lot of folks out there that I'm sure are the same way. So how did you, and Mariana, I'd love your perspective too. How did you approach that conversation? Was it finding out what drives them, what motivates them, the success DNA to, give you a way or strategy to start that conversation?
Well, yes, it was the success DNA. And it was also the genuine understanding of the generational gap.
Mm.
And a lot of people say that, and it seems like a cliche, but it's not. There is a generational gap in, between us and our children, and us and our parents. And if we don't um, understand that and don't honor it and judge it and wish it was different, there's no moving forward. But when we genuinely say, okay, this is how we would approach it, just like Ivan was talking about it, and we actually had a presentation, that came also from the book,
Hmm.
the Bridging Legacy and Innovation, and we took it, for the local university where we used to teach the family business dynamics class, and then also, we went and presented in, several universities across the country. And because it was an innovative approach, okay, and it actually engaged both generations or three generations in the room that were listening to it, because it did show respect and gratitude and honor the owner and the founder as
Yeah.
the very first generation of doing the business. And then also it addressed the second generation, where they had to, show patience and respect and, honor the founder and, show gratitude that, they were giving the opportunity, that it was not just given to them by birthright to be in the business, but they were given opportunity. And the patience, I think that was the one that everybody trips over the most, kind of like us. And, so we were like, okay, but, it's a really good idea. And we saw that also, some of our students will say, I want to be in the business. I want to stay here. And that's why I'm in college and I want to learn. But, my dad mostly is like, he's not interested in digitalizing. He doesn't care for marketing. How do I do that? And
Yeah.
that, I think that was the biggest point, was looking at the things the way they are and not wishing it was different. We're different, but we can we can work together towards that. And then when Ivan talked about resistance, that was not just the resistance from the founder, it was also the resistance from the people who were there the longest, and even people who were there longer than us, who were loyal to the way of doing things, you know, just
Yeah.
like you said, this is the way how we do it. So for them to to enroll them, to see and show them what is it for them if we do implement some of the ideas that we have, and how is that things are going to be better. And you know, but again, always remembering the foundation. That was one of the reasons why we came up with a success DNA, because we wanted to honor the foundation on which, you know, Ivan's dad built the business and all the other founders built their businesses.
Yeah. No, and that's going to be a great segue to transition into how to bring your team on board, because there's businesses that have 3 to 5 employees and there's some that have over 100 employees, different challenges, but same goal or outcome I think that they're looking for. But first, for the owners that are listening, what are these signs that they can keep an eye out for if they're willing to address it and believe that it exists, that they are becoming a constraint? How can they look for these mistakes to hopefully get out of their own way and be like, okay, I'm the one that's starting to become the bottleneck in my business? What are 2 or 3 or 5 signs that they can look out for based on your guys' experience?
Well, really, really long hours would be one sign that there's always more to do than they can get done. That they are starting to feel burnt out, that they're missing family functions, they're missing their kids' game or a recital or whatever it might be, and that
Yeah.
they have a really good reason for it, and it's the 4th or 5th time that same reason is coming up.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be one really good sign. Another sign would be that they don't have a sense of certainty about their team and about delegation, and about when they hand off a task, that they have a certain amount of trust and certainty that the task is going to get done. If they're distrusting perpetually on what the team is getting done, and they feel compulsively having to check that things are getting done properly,
Yeah.
that's just a natural outgrowth, because they remember having to check and having success with checking on that when they had 3 customers, when they had 5 customers, when they had 10 customers, when they had 20 customers, they were able to check and ensure quality control, whatever it might be, or that there
Yeah.
was the right essence in the feeling between the customer and the how things were getting done, and the satisfaction was there. But when you get to 100 customers, that no longer becomes a viable strategy, but within their nervous system, that strategy is still alive.
Yeah.
Is still present, and they want to follow it because they feel like they owe it. Their success is owed to it, and they need to continue it. And
Yeah.
because they were the ones checking, they feel like they got to still be the ones checking. And
Yeah.
so transferring that over to a capable team, and training them properly, and getting them to understand the essence. And first, for the founder to understand what that essence is, and then transferring it over.
Yeah.
What's another sign? Another sign is that
Can go on vacation without having to, you know, check the phone, check the email, call, cut the vacation short.
Yeah. Very
Or
common.
not
Yep.
even go on a vacation at all. Just send the wife and kids, or, you know, husband and kids, depending on the partner.
well, this is not an academic conversation, because I remember coming from Europe,
Yeah.
having to
Yeah.
get on a plane and fly 15 hours across the planet to handle an issue. Although it was extremely sensitive, it was justifiable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was justifiable for me to fly over.
Of course it
But
was. Yeah.
it had to happen. But what we're discussing is creating the conditions so that does not happen. Preparing ahead of time in a way that is gonna, whatever that is that comes up, can be handled, and then who could handle it, and building the capacity within the organization for that to be handled. So we're not pointing fingers here. If you're making any of these mistakes,
You did it too. You're not
We've
pointing any
made these
fingers.
mistakes for years and years, and I'm really sorry to say decades. And so,
Yeah.
what we would love for you to do is take our decades of mistakes and turn them into maybe a few months more of mistakes that you can overcome and learn from, compressing the time and all the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah.
Another symptom of that is probably feeling like you own the problem, that
Yeah.
it's up to you. Here a problem pops up in the business, and it's on you, man. You're the one.
Yeah.
You may have 50 employees. You may have an executive team, but guess what? You still feel like the buck stops with you, and you are the one that owns the problem. And you feel like no one's ever going to care as much as you
Yeah.
about your baby. And so all of those things are really good signs that you are definitely the constraint, because when you have an executive team and when you have a large organization, at that point, that team needs to be enrolled, and they need to have a sense of ownership of their roles, of their realm, if you would, and what they
Yeah.
are managing and leading, and sense of autonomy and sense of really engagement.
Yeah.
And so when you own everything, there isn't enough space for them to really own their role,
Yeah.
because you are in there with them. You're
You're kicking them out.
elbowing elbowing for control. You're paying these people, but then you're wrestling control from them. And in that space, all those highly capable executives lose a lot of their own capability, because there's no room. Like, you're
Yeah.
not allowing them, you're not providing the space enough for them to really make their contribution. So those are just some of the few at the top of our heads examples of how do you know
Yeah.
that you're the constraint.
Okay. So, Mariana, shifting to you. So, creating that room, creating that space, because people are everything, obviously, in the business. Like you said, you're only capped, only one person can go so far. And then you got to start divulging the secret sauce, the strategy, the way you think, how you make decisions into your team members. And I came across this concept of language of appreciation. So how important is it to understand what motivates your team, and how do you invest or even begin to start addressing their needs, as opposed to, well, we got to serve the business. Well, what about the employees? Because I feel if you serve the employees, they will in turn serve the business.
Yes, I like how you said that. Um, for us, we ourselves went through areas of growth, through different mentors and different teachers and different modalities. And in order to become, obviously better people, better parents, better leaders, colleagues, just a better, member of a society. And as we were learning what we felt like was beneficial for us, we made sure that we brought that back into the business and teach our employees, whether that's, knowing themselves, knowing their personality types, communication skills, even at one point we did like a little financial, how can you get out of debt kind of, class.
Yeah, for sure.
We sent them to different programs because we early on realized that, if we're coming in here and we're wanting to transform the business, we cannot do it ourselves. We need to engage our people, and we need to show them that there is a possibility for them within the business. And we loved promoting from within. Yes, we hired a lot of people throughout the years. And also we made sure that whoever was there, we kept them and provided them an opportunity to grow and to, them themselves realize that, there's something more than just being, like a simple operator on the machine, or a,
Yeah.
simple packer or something like that. There's always an opportunity to go and grow. And, obviously, some people are more into it. They want to know themselves. They want to grow. Some people are more kind of like, no, that's not for me, whether they don't have enough capacity or they were led to believe that they don't have enough capacity. So we really capitalized on, offering. Okay, we're just going to offer, and whoever comes along, great. And we did, we invited, a lot of people to come into the business in terms of, helping us identify the strengths and growth areas for ourselves and then our employees as well. And then once we kind of understood, who is, and it goes all the way to the basic, like introvert and extrovert, to
Mhm.
more intricate, like how do they brain works, what is it, like you said, the words of appreciation, the language of appreciation.
Yeah.
Is it a acts of service? Is it a tap on the back? Is it gifts? Is it monetary reward? Is it, because they're all different. So
Yeah.
once we understand who, how they tick, then we can put them all together so they can lean into their strengths.
Yeah.
And if because God knows, like I suck at math, but here is amazing. So when I need something calculated, I know who to go to.
Complementary skills. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of lean into that, and most of them really, really appreciated that, because they came across a company that shares a lot. There is, no, their communication is always open. There is no taboo. We can talk about everything. It's,
Yeah.
and they felt the genuine care, because everything that we taught them what to do at work and how to communicate to each other based on who they are as a person and their personality style, they were able to bring that home to their families and,
Yeah.
with their spouses and partners and, and everybody else, because we always made sure to have them understand that everything that we teach them in terms of development, it's cross-contextual. They can
Yeah.
take it anywhere, and it's theirs forever. That they
Absolutely.
can put that on their resume if they decide to go someplace else. It is their knowledge forever that they have. And so we had a lot, because we were multicultural company. We had, like pretty much short of, like, I don't know, a couple of continents, we had everybody from everywhere. And we made sure to really have them remember where they come from,
Yeah.
their roots
The
of
roots.
their,
Yep.
respectful countries. And then also, have an enormous respect for the country that they're in, currently, that, gave them the opportunity. So we did a lot. There was, stories and stories of what we did.
You want
But
to
that
say,
starts, but I think that starts though with the founders, or the main owners. Like if you have values of personal growth, always trying to learn, and you can go to an event like what I'm sure you folks to go to an event and take back that knowledge and then spread it amongst your team, and then maybe give them the opportunity to go, it just transfers throughout the team, and it's a complete culture shift, I would imagine. You mentioned they had to do a complete culture shift. So is that kind of the approach that you did, was start with the founder and then kind of give back as much as you can? And then I would imagine people would reveal themselves as, hey, you could potentially go into management. You're showing some pretty improvement with skills. Because the challenge is a lot of folks don't have a management team. They have someone that's doing 3 or 4 roles as opposed to just one, and they're spread too thin. Right? Is that a common challenge that you see? So is it investing in the team that way to kind of overcome that?
yes, definitely a challenge. Many business owners, founders are kind of the Michael Jordan of their realm, if you would.
Yeah,
So
great
they
analogy.
are,
Yep.
they are they can dunk and they can attack and they can defend and they can do everything in business that they need. They brought the business up from nothing. So many times we we call founders that are highly capable and multidimensional, we call them unicorns. And so when a unicorn starts to think that they need to replace themselves, they start thinking of all the skills that they have, and they're like, but there is not one like me
They
anywhere,
don't
out there.
exist.
I mean, who am
Yeah.
I going to hire? There's no one to hire. They start to question the possibility even of finding someone as dedicated, as committed, as skilled, as, yeah, I mean, and so with that being the case, through a lot of experience, we went through multiple generations of this. So we had a key employee take over technical side from my father, and then he took over all the admin side and everything. And so when I joined, that was the state of affairs. And then we had another iteration, and we kept trying to do this thing, and we realized that there are no unicorns to be hired. So because we couldn't
That's why it's a
hire
unicorn. They don't exist.
yes, so we couldn't find any of those. So we then changed strategies, and actually we used a very similar strategy to what Phil Jackson, the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, used. And going with the triangle offense, we got the idea that we're going to create triads of leaders. So instead of one unicorn, we're going to put in 3 different leaders in a kind of a triangle offense fashion, that they're going to actually 3 people will replace one. And for some unicorns, it may even take 5, depending on how highly capable they are. And then from that concept, getting a surrounding, if you would, supporting cast to grow in capacity and capability to support the founder. And using the analogy from basketball and Michael Jordan and the Bulls, I'm trusting a lot of the senior business owners and Generation X and all those folks will remember the boomers, remember the Jordan era. Jordan was the best offensive player, the best defensive player, the player of the year, the everything, and he was kept getting beat in the playoffs by Detroit Pistons over and over.
Yep.
So a very depressing result year after year. Finally, up until the change of culture that Phil Jackson brought in, and he started communicating with the unicorn Michael Jordan, that until we build enough trust into the Hodges and the Kerrs and the people that are going to take that shot when the defense collapses on you, until we have enough trust and we build their capacity, we're not going to be able to win. So then Michael Jordan started sharing the ball during the regular season so that in the playoffs they could have enough capacity and trust that he will be able to pass from a triple team into someone that he can trust to make those shots. And that proved to be the case, because the supporting cast many times in the 7 game of the playoff for the championship made those key 3-pointers that were able to bring the team to championship. And it's very, very similar situation that happens in a business, and investing in the capacity of the supporting cast is where it's all happens there.
Yeah, and I want to make a note too. Like if this is something that's new to you, maybe you're not a really large business to send your whole team to an event. It doesn't have to be big. Like start small. Like gift a book that you got value from. Like, hey, read this chapter 3. I think it'll really hit you home to you. Start the momentum and then build from there. Right. Because I think someone could hear and be like, I can't afford that right now in my business, or we're investing here. I can't do that. Start with something and just build that motive or integrity, and it spreads throughout the business, I would imagine.
I would recommend, if it's a lot and it cannot be done yet, or there's not enough budget, or the size of the business is not there, a kind of a sequence of things of what to hand off. Okay, so this comes from a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Okay.
A very, very capable
I'll put it in the show
entrepreneur.
notes too for listeners listening.
Yes, Dan Martell with Buy Back Your Time has a very prescriptive. As I was reading that book, I was like, that's true, and that's true, and that's the book I wanted to write. And now I don't have to write it anymore because it's already written. Here we go.
There. Yeah.
And so he literally builds a prescription and an order of things on what to hand off first, and then what to hand off next, and what to hand off next. And his advice is that all the admin things are the least risky to hand off at first.
Yeah.
Everything admin related, schedule related, a virtual assistant is really great. You'll bring in and hand off all the things that are kind of brain damaging and need to get done, but they're not, they could be done by someone else other than you.
Yeah.
And then gradually from there, looking at what is the next thing that you can hand off. For some people, that is fulfillment or taking care of the customer, because fulfillment is not where your genius is as the founder. Maybe it is. Maybe you're a fulfillment genius. So if you are a fulfillment genius, you're like customer service and care and delivery of the product or the service is where your genius is. Then you leave that for later. You find the things where you're not the most needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you hand that off. So if it's sales, sales is not your thing. Maybe sales is next. Or marketing. Maybe marketing you don't even do. So maybe you can hand off marketing because it's not easy. It's not difficult to hand off something that you're not intimately,
Yeah.
attached to. And so you start with all those in reverse order, and then finally at the end, you hand off that baby of yours that, for my father, it was the machining, the technical machining innovation around how to do it faster, cheaper, better with higher quality. That was his.
Yeah.
A lot of other, for me, it's the innovation, um, growth, change, adding capacities and abilities and all those things. That would be more of my baby. So growth and development and things like that, that would be a more of a thing that I need to hand off. Other examples from founders, a genius in sales. You don't want him handing off sales until you have a whole team covering everything else, and sales is the last thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you leave that genius stuff zone for the last. You also enjoy the genius zone. So you're gonna give a tremendous amount if you're not bogged down by the other admin stuff. If you do only the genius stuff, your business is gonna do very well if other people are handling all the other stuff. And eventually, at the end, when it's time to hand off everything, then that could be the last thing, and you can still be involved however much you want, as long as there are other people that can pick up the slack, because that's what buyers and investors are looking for. They're looking for,
Yeah.
is this business functional without you?
Yeah. I mean, if you're the leading sales guy or sales lady in your organization, you're not going to sell it because if you left, there's going to be no sales, obviously. Mariana, what did you have to give up in the organization going through, again, the both of you, your roles? You must have had to find people to replace your skills. What were some of your skills that you had to give up there or transfer over? And was it challenging?
Well, yeah, it was challenging because I felt, well, my role was chief cultural officer, and
Mhm.
the care for the people and kind of being a mama, and I was
Mhm.
very, very protective of our employees, extremely protective, especially for the outside sources, and
Yeah.
so I felt like, okay, well, I care the most, right? Because it's my job and that's how I am. And then as we were adding people to the team, and mind you, these are all the people that I hired because I was in charge of hiring as well.
Yeah.
I hired other people who actually cared as well. And it wasn't until some of them kind of started taking initiative, because I love also when people take initiative. But then when they took initiative and it was bearing results, I have to admit I was kind of a little bit jealous. I was like, wow, like she did this amazing thing and everybody loved it, and we're all better for it. How come I didn't come up with that?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, wait a minute, but like this is so much bigger than me. So it was kind of offloading the care, and then knowing that if I'm not there today, that they will be taken care of.
Yeah.
That there will be somebody who's also very protective of the employees, that there is somebody who is going to do a much better job planning for a celebration of some sort that we had, whether that was during the holidays or on a Friday or something, like out of the blue and things like that. One day I showed up over there and they, without even asking me or telling me, they had amazing decorations, and and they hired a taco truck and all of that. So it was absolutely incredible. So it was that kind of a, like there's more people that care here, and we're all better for it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I'm
And
there.
yeah, absolutely. And that drives the culture, because you're kind of handing them the reins of the culture off to someone else when that happens, because now you're dealing with the people. Like they
Yes.
drive everything. And if you mess something up or just rub someone the wrong way, I mean, they could leave. I mean, or it can just spiral out of your control. So that's huge.
Right.
That's great. No, and I want to kind of come to an end is is this life after exit concept, which a lot of founders I feel neglect to even start a conversation on from when I sit across the table with some folks, because we always want to talk about the business, growth, innovate, expand into a new market because it's sexy, it's more exciting. Talking about mortality and leaving and then what they're going to do next is not a big driver for most. It is for some. Um, how did you both cope with that, or even be okay with like we're going to leave this thing. We're going to exit. You don't 100% have to leave. You can still stay in the business for folks. You don't have to do an all out leave entirely, but how did you start that process or think about it and overcome that challenge of life after business?
Well, for me personally, I had to go through enough pain, and enough desperation. It wasn't gonna happen otherwise. I remember driving up to the building one day, holding holding on to the wheel and not wanting to let go. I parked in front of the building and I was like, I can't, I cannot get out. I literally cannot get myself out and go and walk into that door and then hear all that same problem again.
Going into work, you mean?
Yes, going into my own
Okay.
business.
Yeah.
I was that burnt out and I was carrying every problem and I was obsessing over it and bringing it home, and it was impossible. It was so much backed up pain that I felt like if I keep going, I'm either gonna have a heart attack or I'm gonna have a stroke or something, because I was done. And with that realization, I think that was the beginning of the turnaround,
Hmm.
because we were pushing a lot and we quadrupled the business. So there was always new problems and always new difficulties and multiplying difficulties. And then, the
Yeah.
business was growing beyond me, definitely. But I was hanging on to make as much contribution as I definitely became a constraint at that point. And so sometimes you can be a constraint and get through it. And then at the next plateau of growth, you can become a constraint again. So you may be constraining the business several times over its journey. And so this was one of
Yeah.
the last ones. And from that point on, we really tripled down on the team side and really made a lot of strides and went in that direction. We knew at that point we had to do it differently and at a higher level. And then once the conditions were there, we were able to land the plane of independence for the business, if you would.
Yeah.
At that point, we grew ourselves to the point of working only 2 hours a week. Quite a stark change, because we had capable people handling everything. We built that capacity and trained them to that point. And um, at that point, we started realizing that this chapter might be finished, might be concluded. That the next challenges will be maybe helping other people make this
Mm.
same journey like we have,
Yeah.
and dedicating ourselves to that might be a better thing. And the more we were thinking about it, the better that felt. And that was like, I didn't want to go in, and once I went in and created the capacity, and then I really didn't want to go back in again, because I felt like, okay, this is great, it's working beautifully, I'm not needed.
Yeah.
Beautiful situation. But then we still had to do the final touches, preparing for the exit and creating everything that the buyers want, and making sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted and all of that stuff. And so Mariana came up with an ingenious solution for building our kind of energy and motivation to go back in.
Mhm.
So she can share on that one.
Yeah.
We were already kind of doing our presentations and helping other people and doing some advising on the side as we were parallel having the company. So we kind of already had that feeling of how does it feel like to be a consultant and an advisor and a coach.
Mhm.
So on that particular morning when we both kind of came to work, and we were like and Ivan is like, what are we gonna do? And I said,
Because
why don't
did
we
you
just
feel? I'm sorry to make. Were you feeling the same as Ivan was feeling,
um to a certain extent.
or did he come to you be like, listen, this is driving me to drink? Like, are you on the same page? Like, how did that transpire to you?
Well,
Just
he had
curious.
more responsibilities, and his
Okay.
responsibilities were greater. So he was definitely feeling it more than me.
Gotcha.
I was still kind of in there, and I did have responsibilities, but I also had responsibilities at home as well. I mean, a little bit
Yes.
more than him. So we were kind of spread out thin as it is. So,
Gotcha.
in terms of business, it was more him. So that's why I guess in that moment, I was able to come up with that idea to say,
Save the day. Yeah.
yeah, why don't we just walk in like consultants? Like, why don't we just walk in, and we're here to consult and advise on this wonderful manufacturing business and see, what we come up with. And it not only it elevated that kind of heaviness that we were both feeling, but also it let us come up with some ideas, that otherwise we probably wouldn't, because we kind of removed ourselves like a step or two, above,
Mm.
and we're able to kind of elevate our perspective. And and I felt like the team was also kind of like, they took more pride, and they were able to step in more, that as we were able to step out. And I would say, the more, you've heard about the concept, and I'm sure your viewers and listeners have too, about identifying with the business, owners identify with their businesses.
Yeah, identity for sure.
For sure. So the higher that identification is, and actually not, let's say the deeper they're identified with their business, the harder it's going to be to extract themselves and then also find some kind of a life afterwards, even if they
Yeah.
somehow manage to sell or manage to exit, or however it is, or close down the business, whatever it is. If they're really, that the identity is deeply ingrained, they're not going to have a pleasant times afterwards, because who am I now that I don't have my business anymore? What am I to
Yeah.
do? What is the purpose of life? So the more we kind of look, and for us, the purpose was more helping others, helping multiple businesses rather than just helping ours.
We actually came up
Mm.
with a process. I wouldn't say we came up with our own version of the process of how to de-identify a business owner from their business, how to untangle them, because business
Yeah.
owners can tend to get entangled
For
and
sure.
fuse with their business, their identity of a business owner and their business being one and the same. And so we have a process where we can create some healthy separation, if you would,
Yeah.
between those two things. And so it gives more of the vitality and energy back to the business owner of their own, as well as creates the space for the business to actually operate independently as an independent entity.
Yeah.
So both sides win, actually. And
Yeah.
so
For sure.
our business benefited from my absence at some point. Because, and why did that happen? This is kind of a, maybe it sounds like a ludicrous idea that a business might benefit from the absence of its owner.
Mm-hmm.
But if the owner is the constraint, actually the distance with the owner might actually remove the constraint.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, it's very, very, it makes a lot of sense. And um, there's another concept and principle called the vacuum of leadership.
Okay.
So
What's that?
if you create a vacuum of leadership, like if you create an opening for new leaders. And how do you create the opening? You actually have to absence yourself from the.
You don't go to work tomorrow. See what happens.
Don't
You have
show
to
up.
you
That's
have to
simple.
absence yourself from the role, or create the space for the role, or create a new role. Maybe there isn't a role for it. And
Yeah.
so once you create it, there's a vacuum of leadership, and then people can tend to gravitate to those positions, and when they're engaged, they can go in there and make a difference. But if there is no vacuum, there's not a lot of opportunity for change. So you
Yeah.
need to be kind of intentional about creating what is the next iteration here?
Yeah.
What is the next role that we need to create here? What is missing? What am I carrying that would be better carried by someone else? And those are the questions for that. And I don't know if we answered the question about the future and what is the kind of next thing for their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a very sensitive thing, and similar like Success DNA.
Mm.
Taking the essence from Success DNA and then maybe transferring it, same essence, into a new environment. And that may be a nice trick where they feel like, oh yeah, that is my secret sauce. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that same thing that was very, very fulfilling for me, but I'm gonna use it maybe on a philanthropic direction, or I'm gonna use it
Yeah.
maybe on on the building, my grandkids and the next generation, or it might be a new business.
Right.
Yeah,
So
applying it on something else.
yeah, maybe this business I've reached my destiny on. I think I've took it as far as I could, and I think it's time for me. But I have an interest in this, and maybe this success DNA, the essence. What if I tested it over here or over here? It could be a hobby. You can
Yeah.
maybe take the success DNA from your business and improve your golf game. I don't know what it is for you, but whatever it is, there
Yeah,
is a way. There is a way to do that.
yeah. Yeah, some say golf, and I'm like, you're gonna golf for the rest of your life. You're 62. Like, you'll be bored in a week. Come on. But yeah, and I think, and let me know if this is pretty accurate. Like, the sooner you can start having that conversation and giving yourself the time and space to really consider, what are my hobbies, interests, what provides me fulfillment separate from the business. So when you get to that, when you get to the table where, if you're selling, transitioning, or just giving up a piece, you're not scared and run away, because that happens. They can't sign because there's this big rush of emotion. I think, like, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Mhm.
And sometimes the employees are their only friends. I mean, right? So everybody's different, obviously. And some are like, I'm done, get me out today. And others like, I know I need to get out of this, but I'm not ready. But what should I be doing to prepare myself? And that's really, really important. And what you both help with, I think, right? What share a little bit what you're doing today as we come to a close. What value are you adding to entrepreneurs in the exit planning space? Is it coaching? Is it getting in there and helping fix these challenges and concentration risks and hiring? What specifically do you do today? So we know.
We do all of the above. We help de-risk the business in a way that becomes much more attractive. We focus on three areas. The first shift that we hope and help business owners make is the inner world shift. What you
Mhm.
just covered. What is their readiness for healthy separation with the business? What is their readiness for gradual discussion? Some people's attachment is a lot tighter and it needs more time. So there's definitely an evolution that happens on the inner world of being the owner being ready. Okay, so
Yeah.
the owner being ready is the first step, because the owner dependence pretty much makes the business not sellable. And so owner readiness is the first thing we focus on through the inner world shift. The second thing is the business ready for a transition?
Yeah.
How is the succession? How all what's the strength of the team? What's the culture like? What's the operating system? What are the principles, the ways we operate, the um, standard operating procedures, whatever might be needed or might be missing. All of those things need to be shored up so that they can all stand up in due diligence
Yeah.
when the due diligence happens. We actually failed due diligence twice, so we are very, very. We only made it happen on the third try, and we have a lot of things we can help with shortening the learning curve and maybe avoiding some of those failures. And then we call that the second shift is the operating system shift. So
Mhm.
inner world shift, operating system shift, and finally the marketplace shift is the key third piece, because who is heading up the marketplace coordination, and who is in charge of the marketing, who is in charge of the sales, how is that progressing, what's the price, what's the frequency of sale, what are all those things that could be maximized before the actual process of selling, maximizing the profitability of that, putting that success DNA front and center when it relates to the marketplace, and maximizing the value from that. All of
Mm.
those are part of the marketplace shift. And so once we have those three pieces of readiness, then we are ready and prepared to actually engage the marketplace to position the business for maximum value and create that kind of victorious moment, the final chapter, if you would, the riding off into the sunset with a lucrative exit. That's kind of what we do. We have the capability of finding buyers. We're connected with a network of thousands of investors. Our advisory board actually has done thousands of transactions. So we're not only able to help you pre-exit and get your company in shape for it, and you, but we're also able to run the process and support you in the finding and locating the appropriate buyer, whether they're strategic or financial or private equity or whatever it might be. And finally, we're able to help you create that lucrative exit and transition into the next phase of your life throughout the whole thing. So we have been through it all. We've done it. We've done it all. We have eaten our own cooking, and we haven't thrown up yet. This is a statement from Keith Cunningham.
There you
We
go.
love
Yep.
Keith Cunningham made a huge difference in our journey, and we love to pass that goodness on to other people that are going through it now.
Yeah, so valuable. Really, really good information. I mean, it all boils down to plan ahead, get educated on the process. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of key players that you got to get on your team. And the sooner you start understanding the process, the sooner you can get yourself in a position to successfully exit. That's great. So yeah, where can people find you? Where can people look up more information on the both of you? Share whatever resources you like.
You can find us both on LinkedIn. We just launched a new brand called Jumpstart Your Exit. You can find us on jumpstartyourexit.com.
Okay.
And there's actually, we ran a master class last year on jumpstarting your exit. It was a 3-day master class in which we cover a lot of these moving pieces on preparation, the process, and what to do and how to do it, what to watch out for, what mistakes to avoid, and things like that. So we're giving that away as a gift to all the people that opt in on our website. And that's it in a nutshell. You if you look us up, you'll find some good information.
Awesome. Great. Well, for everyone listening, I will include all the links to everything Ivan mentioned in the show notes. I would recommend that check them out, read the book. I'm sure you'll get a ton of value from it. So Mariana, Ivan, thank you very much for coming on. Such great information. And maybe we'll have you back on in the future.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Tom.
you, Tom.
Huge honor for us, and thank you for including us in your great education process that you have for business owners. And we look forward to coming on again anytime.
Great. You both take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.